Hi there. A lot of you have been asking me about how I color grade, and this video is pretty much about color. There's more to it than just color grading. What we need to do first is to set up this studio environment. It's just my workroom, but I have to make the best of it. So first of all, I have to turn on some lights. So now you can see it's way too bright and the white balance is way off and there's dust on the lens. And next up, the white balance. What the hell? Now I change the white balance from 3200 Kelvin to 5600 Kelvin. And what it does is that it makes the background lights much warmer and it's way too bright. So I'll turn down the ISO. Instead of taking the ISO all the way down, I kept it at 400 and set the aperture to about 5. It's still too bright on me, but let's not worry too much about that right now. Next up, I need to frame this shot and I have to make the direction of the light. I do that by placing myself in the scene. I need a little more light so this won't be too dark when I start recording. Oh, sorry. So we need more lights. Damn that hair, I need a haircut. This is a Falcon Eyes Sophie's LED light. This is called 48, it's called 68. So now I have to move my chair to where I usually sit. I got these two lights in the background and I want to frame just outside these two lights. And then I have the LED lights that I use for the main light. The background lights are more or less used for separating the foreground from the background, so you get this sort of cold foreground and warmer background. Get the aperture down to level and place myself between the two lamps. And now I want to narrow the field of view by zooming in. Yeah, not too shabby. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I don't want this very bright light on my face, so I just keep outside the direct light. This is basically how I set up the scene, and with color grading it looks like this. It doesn't take much, but I'll show you later what I do with this footage. This footage is recorded with the Fujifilm X-H1, and I'd really like to show how I color grade when I use this bad boy. The X-T3 has sort of 3 settings I'd like to try out in this video and show how I color grade. One is the F-Log flat profile, other one is Eterna, the color profile. Last one is the one that came out with the new firmware 2.0 for the X-T3. It's sort of a high dynamic range setting. I want to try that as well and also color grade it and show you how I color grade it. So what I'm going to do now is take that camera and put this one in there instead. One moment. Okay, this footage right now is just for color grading. And first off, we'll just try out the H.265 and color grade from that. So what I'll do now is I'll choose the clip I want to color grade. Now I'll just use the color wheels. What I'll do with this footage is just to add some warmth in the highlights and add a bit of blues, maybe cyan in the shadows. And I honestly don't need to do much more. I could boost the highlights a bit, and if you notice the red, it will probably burn out, so I'll just keep it under the 100. You shouldn't be too worried about that the red is more saturated than the green and the blue, because that's just the nature of this frame. If it was a blue sky, the blue would be way more saturated. But here we have a lot of yellow, orange in the picture, so it's not unusual that we have more red here. So that's honestly everything I do. So this was the almost nothing that I did to the H.265 footage. I sort of like this balance of color and light here, so I'll try to sort of get the same result over here. First of all, we need to get some contrast here. I'll try to take the master light down a bit because it is a bit bright. Take up the highlights a bit and take down the midtones a bit. to the level where I still see details, this black t-shirt. It needs more color, so we'll just push the general color up. And you can see it's way too green and yellow, so we need to move the highlights a bit towards purple, which you can do down here in this tint section. I'll try to give it a bit of orange as well up here. Not too much. I don't want to be too orange in my face. We need to take the light down. It's a balance between shadows and highlights. I just want to keep the darks detailed just a tiny bit and not have too much tint in the blacks, and try to keep this sort of orange and not so green as this light. As you can see, the flat footage needs quite a bit more work in the midtones. I think this is it. So you can see it's way more radical, the settings over here. The highlights are pushed way up. In general, the colors are pushed much more. Of course, you would need a bit more time if you want to do it properly. It's really a balance between colors. And now let's see this other footage, which is this strange form of high dynamic range stuff. This is my first attempt with that. It looks a bit strange to me, but you can see there's a lot of extras over here, so we have to pull it back. Wow, that's a lot of information. Oh my god. So we just take down the highlights. So we are about the same place as we were before by pulling down the highlights. There's a lot of saturation as well, so we don't have to work too much with that. We need to add a bit more contrast. I'll pull down the midtones. I don't know if I need that. I can see detail here. Maybe I should not pull it down that much. And there's a lot of red in there. There's a lot of color in this. And now let's grade it a bit by giving a bit of color to the shadows here and a bit of orange yellowish. It needs way less than the flat. Yeah, I can see my skin is way too red, so I need to take out a bit of saturation in the midtones. It's all a matter of fiddling around. If I was about to record some footage with backlight in the sun, I would most probably use this high dynamic range thing. It looks pretty promising. I've never dealt with it before. It is very impressive. Man, I look so happy. As you see here, with the high dynamic range setting in the X-T3, it's pretty radical with the highlights. You had to take it down quite a bit, but the rest is very subtle. When we look at the flat profile, I had to do quite a lot to make that work, and I'm not sure I'm totally satisfied with it. And then there's the Eterna. I really like this. It's very easy, and you can see there's almost no grading. It's very straight, but certainly the new profile has its potential. That's pretty much what I do. That was pretty much how I color grade and how I set up this little environment right here. That's pretty much it. See you next time.